Imagine walking through a marketplace and every single person freezes. Not because of a king's army, not because of a threat, but because a man just casually handed a beggar enough gold to feed the entire city for a year, and he didn't even look back. In 1324, one man made the entire global economy collapse, not through war, not through plague, but by being too rich. Gold lost half its value across 3 continents, and it stayed that way for over a decade. His name was Mansa Musa, and to this day, historians cannot agree on how much he was actually worth. Some estimates say $400 billion. Others say his wealth was simply incalculable. Stay with me, because this story has a beginning, a peak, and an ending that nobody talks about. To understand how extraordinary Mansa Musa was, you first need to understand what the world looked like in 1312, the year he came to power. Europe was still recovering from the Great Famine. The Black Death hadn't arrived yet, but war and poverty were everywhere. The Mongol Empire was fracturing. China's Song dynasty had just fallen. The world's power was scattered, unpredictable, and desperate for stability. And then there was the Mali Empire, sitting in West Africa, largely ignored by the rest of the world. From the outside, it looked like a distant, unremarkable kingdom. But beneath its soil, half the world's gold supply and the salt trade routes that made that gold flow. The Mali Empire didn't just have resources, it had a monopoly. Mansa Musa didn't invent this empire. He inherited it from a long line of Mansa, meaning king of kings, but he was the first to make the world see it. In 1324, Mansa Musa announced he was making the Hajj, the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca. As a devout Muslim, this was a religious duty, but the way he did it was something else entirely. He left Mali with a caravan of 60,000 people. Let that sink in. 60,000. That's more people than many cities of that era. In the caravan, soldiers, scholars, merchants, enslaved people, and 12,000 servants, each one wearing Persian silk and carrying a golden staff. 80 camels, each loaded with 300 pounds of gold dust. Not gold coins, gold dust. He didn't just travel through cities, he transformed them. When he stopped in Cairo to visit the Sultan, he gave away so much gold to the poor, to merchants, to anyone who asked, that the value of gold in Cairo collapsed. Prices spiked. The Egyptian economy went into a spiral that took 12 years to recover from. He didn't do this to cause harm. He did it because to Mansa Musa, giving away tens of thousands of pounds of gold was just generosity. It was what you did when you had this much. Merchants who had waited their whole lives to accumulate wealth suddenly found their gold worth half of what it was yesterday because a man passing through decided to be charitable. When Mansa Musa reached Mecca, he didn't just pray and return home. He recruited. He brought back some of the most brilliant scholars, architects, and poets of the Islamic world. The most famous of them was Abu Ishaq al-Sakhili, an Andalusian poet and architect from Granada, who Musa paid 200 kilograms of gold just for the journey back. Back in Mali, Musa commissioned a building spree. The Great Mosque of Jannah, still standing today, reflects the style of this era. He built mosques, madrasas, libraries. He turned Timbuktu from a trading post into one of the greatest centers of learning in the medieval world. At its peak, the University of Sankore in Timbuktu had over 25,000 students. It held between 400,000 and 700,000 manuscripts, more books than any European library of the time. Europe was sending knights to fight over Jerusalem. Mansa Musa was building universities. Here's the part that most people don't know. In 1375, a European cartographer named Abraham Crescas drew a map, the Catalan Atlas. It was one of the most detailed maps of the known world at the time. And in the center of West Africa, drawn larger than any other ruler on the map, sat a figure on a golden throne, holding a golden orb, wearing a golden crown. It was Mansa Musa. The inscription next to him read, "This king is the richest and most noble lord in all this region, owing to the abundance of gold that is mined in his lands." This map was used by European explorers for generations. It is partly what eventually drove Portugal down the African coast, what set in motion the age of exploration, what set in motion a chain of events that would reshape the entire world, for better and for worse. The richest man who ever lived put Africa on the map, literally. Now for the part that doesn't get told enough. Mansa Musa died around 1337. His son, Mansa Musa, inherited the throne, but not his father's genius. Within years of Musa's death, the empire began to fracture. Raiders from the Mosi kingdom attacked. Internal power struggles broke the Mali Empire from the inside. By 1400, the empire that had shaken the global economy was a shadow of itself. By 1600, the Songhai Empire had absorbed most of its territory. The libraries of Timbuktu, those 700,000 manuscripts, were scattered, destroyed, or hidden. To this day, scholars are still finding and recovering them in the homes of descendants who hid them from invaders. The richest man who ever lived built something extraordinary, and the world promptly forgot it. Or rather, was made to forget it, because if you acknowledge the Mali Empire, you have to acknowledge that African civilization was not what colonizers claimed it was. So we come back to where we started. A man who walked through a marketplace and collapsed an economy with kindness. A man who built universities while Europe built castles. A man so wealthy that historians still cannot count his money. Mansa Musa's real legacy isn't the gold, it's the question his life forces you to ask. What else has been erased? What other civilizations, what other stories, what other richest men and women in history are sitting in manuscripts still hidden in someone's wall? The world was always bigger than the version we were taught. If this video made you see history differently, share it, because stories like this one deserve to be heard. I'm your go-to place for historic moment, and I'll see you in the next one.